Of course, most Turks have been concentrating on the immense upheaval in their own lives after the coup. Family members and friends arrested, sharply divided opinions of the government, concern about changes in daily life in a new atmosphere. Sheriff Ishler had taken a few days off from his job at the BBC and found himself racing to keep up with events.
On the night of the 15th of July, I wasn't in Istanbul or Ankara. I couldn't see what was happening. Instead, I was attending a friend's wedding on the coast in Antalya. Then, my dad called to ask why there were F-16 jets flying overhead in Ankara. All I could say was what I knew. I don't know. A statement on Turkish state TV gave some clarity to an opaque situation. The Turkish armed forces have seized control of the country, it said. I rushed onto the street to tweet pictures of anything I could to get plugged into the news again. One look out of the window revealed long queues in front of ATMs, bakeries full of customers buying all the bread, people filling up at petrol stations worried it might be their last chance. People on the streets didn't know who was who or what side anyone was on, and somehow I'd hurt my foot amid all the crowds and the running around. I heard my dad's words from years ago once again. I fear you will die poor and lonely if you become a journalist. That night in Turkey is now dubbed the night when no one slept. My phone kept ringing, past 3 a.m, past 4, as I watched some of the events unfolding on TV. On CNN Turk, you could watch live as soldiers supporting the coup invaded its office and got right into the newsroom, from which the staff were forced out, leaving it silent, but still live on air. I was on the phone to my BBC colleagues, but could hardly believe what had happened, never mind explain it. Sometime later, the stillness of CNN Turk's studio was broken by someone running in and yelling, "We're back on air!" Staff had returned to the newsroom and began broadcasting images of the coup being overpowered by ordinary people. With no time to blur distressing images, the country was seeing people without protective vests being shot and killed. Sections in Turkey's military had launched a coup, but it was resisted, and it failed. Turkey is known for its beautiful sunrises, a deep orange slowly pushing away the night to turn it into a deep blue. Yet the morning of the 16th of July was hazy, humid, horrible. I had to join the BBC team in Istanbul. The only problem? No planes. The only solution? Rent a car and drive. The 10-hour journey across Anatolia from Antalya to Istanbul was scenic and smooth. I rushed it, but a few quick pit stops for food and petrol let me ask local people what they thought. Nobody revealed much. The waiter in Isparta was busy watching the news. The onion seller in Afyonkarahisar asked me what I thought had happened, but quickly turned the conversation to how best to fry his onions. And the pottery maker in Sakarya opened his mouth, but could only utter, "This country." The BBC Istanbul bureau was abuzz when I arrived. Under the blazing sun, in a cocoon made of cables, we worked non-stop, planning our broadcast to be as balanced as possible. We found members of all parties and analysts of all persuasions. One commentator called the event a high-tech coup. Little did we know, an arrest warrant would be issued for him just days later, as the backlash took hold and people were led away and sacked in their thousands. That's how fast events can move in Turkey. It was time for me to leave. At the airport, long queues, police checking everyone carefully, making sure no one earmarked for the purge was skipping the country. The police officer checking my passport took a long look at me and started typing. He typed some more and some more. Maybe it took a few seconds, maybe a year. I couldn't tell. The bang of the date stamp startled me. And just minutes later, the plane was taking off, and Istanbul was getting further and further away.
Sheriff Ishler.